Welcome to Caucasian Journal video interviews. Today it is our great pleasure to welcome Dr. Miloš MICHLOVSKY, the leading Czech expert in winemaking, who is currently visiting Georgia and kindly agreed to give us an interview. We must also thank the Czech embassy in Tbilisi for this opportunity and for the help in translation. Dr. MICHLOVSKY, welcome to Georgia. Is this your first visit to Georgia and what brings you here?
Já pozdravím našich moravských vinařů. Vítajte ve Vinohradě.
So I would like to greet you by a Moravian greetings. Welcome in the vineyard. It's not my first time in Georgia. My first visit was here in the 70s of the last century. During my study times and doctorand periods, I used to come very often to Georgia because I had a lot of friends here. Now we have been cooperating in the recent years throughout the bilateral cooperation between Czechia and Georgia, while we try to share our best experience with the accession to the EU and actually all the lessons learned. So as I can see, there's a quite dynamic processes in Georgia in relation to the accession to the EU in connection with the candidacy status. So I can see there has been a lot of changes in terms of legislative basis. And of course all these processes are not easy to be adopted and then implemented, especially in reality, but they are necessary for the accession to the EU. Georgia can be proud of a phenomena which is a qvevri production, the very old style of making the wine. And this is an asset, an added value of the Georgian wine. However, I have to say that this asset is definitely something special on the European market. So you have to count on this and not rely on only this specific asset. So by this I don't mean necessarily industrialization of the qvevri production, not at all. I mean coming back to the nature production of the vineyards, of the vines, and taking care of the vineyards as such in an organic way. So it's not only about the production in an old style, as you didn't forget, but please don't forget also about the natural way of producing, of harvesting and growing the vineyards.
Your company is focusing on bioproduction and organic wines. Can you tell us a little bit more about your activities and achievements in this field?
So I can proudly say that I am a front runner of this natural production long before it was imposed by the EU legislation. On the contrary to the world's most famous bioproduction of the wines, my bioproduction is based on different approach. I am making a new varieties of the wine, which makes them more resistant to harmful diseases. So I can use instead of 10 or 12 chemical spraying, only 2. Yes, so this approach actually made it successful and already prepared for the accession to the EU, because with the accession to the EU in 2004, we needed to, all the wine making production needed to adjust their production according to the EU legislation. And as I was thinking about the natural production already before, I was ready. I think what is very important and what I would like to underline is a diversification of the production, because with this bio-organic approach we try to find out different products that we could produce. So it's not only wines, bio wines, but it's also the juices and other products that we can offer and that are on demand from the public. We also started to produce bio non-alcoholic wines. Well, the non-alcoholic wine is actually now very fancy in Europe, and it's not only a question of the drivers and pregnant women, but it's also kind of a fancy way of young people to have the wine, to entertain themselves and still be safe. There's actually a funny part of it that some people are suspicious that I'm making ground of the future addiction to my wines by teaching young people the flavor of the wine while offering them the non-alcoholic drinks.
Do you think the Georgian wine industry should expect the same processes like you had in Czech Republic after joining the European Union?
So, of course, before the accession, we were very much dependent to get experience from the EU countries that shared willingly with us. So, the same we offer now to Georgia, to share with you our experiences. Actually, there is a big difference between Czechia and Georgia when it comes to winemaking. So we produce 60 to 70 million liters of wine, but we consume 200 million liters, whereas Georgia produces much more than it consumes. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the preparedness, legislative and technological preparedness, I think Georgia is on a very good track. What I can see in the companies, wine companies, the technical equipment is on a very high level, and also the EU approximation legislations in process. So what will be more challenging, in my point of view, is actually the export and the selling of the wine. What I meant was a competitiveness actually of the Georgian wine on the EU market. Because you know that within EU there are 2 or 3 countries that basically can saturate the EU market and are highly competitive, and they are now searching for the markets outside of the European Union. So if Georgia wants to be competitive in the EU markets, they will have these big competitors that are already settled on the market, and they have very good prices for the consumers. So there is a big competition of the wines coming not only from the EU countries, but also third countries like South Africa or America. And why? Because we are exporting highly sophisticated technologies for the winemaking on the expenses of the wine bringing back. So they don't pay in cash, they pay by wine, mm-hmm. which makes the price very low. And on the market you can easily get good quality wine, drinkable wine, for the cost of €1.5, including the taxes. So in this quite difficult market situation, it might be challenging for the Georgian wines to be competitive. So although there were a lot of incentives and, for instance, preferential loans from the banks at the beginning, it helped a lot to boost up the winemaking sector. However, now after 20 years, I have to say that it's really difficult for the Czech winemakers to compete, for instance, with the Moldavians or with the exports from the South Africa or South America, because of the prices. Mm-hmm. So the government helped a lot at the beginning, but now we are in the period that the winemakers are struggling to be competitive on the Czech market. Maybe you're surprised that I keep talking about the competitiveness and the prices, but I think this is really the most challenging part, and I think if Georgia winemakers want to be competitive on the European market, they have to diversify. And they have to think about offering other products that cannot be received from any other markets. So I would encourage you to take a different approach and to try to fight with different or compete with different instruments, with different arms. Just to give back to this hard competitiveness on the EU market. As I mentioned already, what is nice and convenient after the EU accession, there will be access to a lot of subsidies for the technological and financial support of the winemaking. So this is a positive part of it. But later on, Georgian winemakers will definitely face the challenges connected to the market competitiveness. And I will give you two examples of the Czech situation. So the first one is the case of Beaujolais Nouveau, which is a French brand, and it's very fancy in France, and it basically flooded all the shops and restaurants in Czechia in November, thanks to this huge marketing strategy of France. So the reaction of Czechia was very bright at the time, and we were successful because we introduced our brand, Czech brand. We called it St. Martin's, and we released it basically 1 week before Beaujolais Nouveau. So that was a very good marketing step, because we introduced to the shops and restaurants our St. Martin wine before Beaujolais Nouveau, and we provided the whole story around it, which is connected to our country. So people, of course, trusted more the Czech history and Czech traditions, and started to buy enormously the St. Martin's wine instead of St. Beaujolais. And nowadays, St. Beaujolais nobody buys in Czechia. So this is a kind of marketing victory, but this must be really well thought, and it's not the marketing step of one winemaker, but it should be the marketing step of a country, actually, to compete on the European market. But I will give you also not successful reaction of Czechia when it comes to Prosecco introduction from Italy. So it's not only Prosecco, but also these light sparkling wines. So when it came to our market 10 years ago, we drank like 10,000 bottles a year, and now it's 1 million. Because of the quite harsh and aggressive kind of strategy from Italian market. So we were not proactive enough to face and to react on this massive introduction of Prosecco and sparkling wines, and we will have to find out our way out of it, because our market is overflooded with Prosecco and these light wines, but we didn't find a way out yet.
If there is anything else you would like to add, the floor is yours.
Recommendation would be to maintain the high quality of the vineyards of the endemic varieties of wines like Saperavi, which will always be competitive. And in this case, if you want to keep the high quality of the wines, you can also have less production, like 10 tons per hectare. You don't need to have big, massive production, but keep the high quality. So while keeping the high quality vineyards in a smaller, let's say, amount, on the other hand, you will have to think about the quite massive areas with a high production, let's say 30 hectares, while the quality will not be that high, but will be competitive for the wine types of Prosecco and varieties like that. And with these, you can compete on the EU market, but still maintaining this little part of the high quality, quite expensive wines that will be for the wine lovers, and they will always buy it, but not based the export only on these high quality wines to be competitive. Yes. Again, talking about the competitiveness, you have to realize that in the whole world, 80% of the wine that is consumed in the price of less than 2 euros. So my final recommendation would be to try to diversify, in the sense that you have to keep your originality, but also, thanks to the innovative technologies, introduce something new that will be accessible. For instance, non-alcoholic wines or lower alcoholic wines that people might want to drink in a hot summer, or young wines. So try to be more creative in terms of the widening of the and diversification of the production, and offering more varieties, more products to the public. This is the only way how Georgia can be competitive while keeping the high standards of the high quality wines. So to summarize, I think I would like to say that after 20 years of our presence within the EU, there are definitely more positives for the winemaking sector than negatives, although I tried to make you vigilant about the potential challenges that you might face, the Georgian making producers would face in the future, connected especially to the competitiveness on the EU market. But I think now it's the right time to open the eyes, to be more open to any new innovative solutions, introduction of new products that could be compatible, and be inspired by other markets, but still keeping the special Georgian input in it. So the combination of the tradition while using the new innovative solutions, and see the actual situation on the market, is the combination that would definitely help the Georgian producers.
Well, thank you very much. I think this is an excellent interview with very important Czech lessons. I'm sure they would be very useful for Georgia. Thank you very much.
We cover what matters. Caucasian Journal.